Tennessee basketball is just a mere couple of weeks away, nearly 10 days away from its exhibition game against Indiana. So, what can we expect from a Rick Barnes led team? Well, for starters, they got some of the best talent out of the transfer portal. They have elite returning talent and a couple of notable freshmen on the team. All of this together could make for one of Rick Barnes' most versatile teams, and then on defense, could be one of his best this season. Let's get into it. I'm Paige Dower. This is the Field Pass. And if you missed it, I had a great conversation with BFL Chase McGrath, the place kicker who kicked the field goal to walk it off against the Alabama Crimson Tide in 2022. Just a great retelling of what happened in that final drive. Here's a quick clip.
I'm sure if I had a heart rate monitor on or something, it would have been through the roof.
Didn't miss that one.
And McGrath missed the extra point.
Whoa.
The only exchange I had during the game with Coach Heupel was when I missed that extra point earlier in the game.
Hit the left upright and no good.
As a kid, you got to have a short memory. And I remember Coach Heupel walking over to me trying to, motivate me, check in on me, make sure I was good. And I kind of gave him a stare. That is not usually what I would give to my head coach, especially Coach Hype, because I love him and enjoyed playing for him. But it was kind of like, dude, get away from me. I'm fine. You don't need to come talk to me. He kind of walked up to me. I was like, "You're good." I was like, "I'm good." And he's like, "Okay." I don't know what he was gonna say to me, but he ended up not saying anything because he could tell I was mentally I was all right.
Yeah, that was really just so much fun putting that story together. It was really kind of like a creative challenge putting a story like that together. I've never really done that, but again, such a great conversation. If you've missed it, let this be a chance to subscribe, turn on those notifications so you don't miss out. And I highly recommend watching that after this. And the SEC Media Days for men's basketball and women's basketball, they are upon us. And that really tells us how close we are to the start of the season. So let's go back to what we were trying to get into, right? Can we expect from a Rick Barnes led team? You look back to a couple weeks ago when we talked about the art of tough coaching. That is kind of a rarity in this college landscape. You look at all the greats who have started to retire and leave their sport, from Coach Cal to even Nick Saban. A lot of that had to do with these changes in the transfer portal, the immediate playing once you transfer, NIL, and just how all of that is really shaping a team. Coach Rick Barnes is kind of one of those last figureheads, still standing. And a part of his ability to continue to find success in the transfer portal, NIL rules, and the type of coaching that's comprised in the sport is his ability to adjust, which he really expects and demands from his players as well. But he doesn't shy away from the fact that in recent years, it's been the most radical of changes.
And the fact is, whether you agree or disagree, if you want to stay in the game, you got to be willing to embrace what's happening at that point in time. And that's where we are. And hopefully that as we keep sorting through all that's going on right now, it gets to a place where it's where everybody likes it, players included, everyone. But it's really just a matter of adjustment. You have to adjust. And just with our team, we talk about our team constantly every day about where we've got to make adjustments through what we're doing, and I don't think it's any different with our profession.
Yeah, and part of Rick Barnes' generation of coaching that's a lot different from today's coaching, especially with those newer and younger coaches, is of course the art of tough coaching. It's one of the aspects as why the transfers and a lot of college basketball players want to play for Rick Barnes is because of the way he's able to coach his players and really demand and get the best out of his players. But while maybe some of these newer coaches sway away from that and you kind of see them be a bit more like a friend to their players, it almost kind of seems that Rick Barnes has been able to find the perfect touch to tough coaching.
I think it's hard for some players, and I can see why, because he's a hard coach, but he has results and he knows what he's talking about. So really, for me, and I know for other people, is really just taking a lot of what he says and really focusing on what he wants to get out of you as a player. If he wasn't saying anything to you, that means he didn't really believe in you at all in the first place. And the fact that he says stuff to me, the fact that he says stuff to a lot of these guys on the team, just means that he believes in this team and he believes in his players. And I know off the court how much he loves us, and I know on the court how much he wants us to succeed. And that's, all you can really ask for in a coach.
Yeah, so some things just don't change. I'm sure part of them you just learn to love it. Otherwise, I'm sure maybe you would go crazy when Rick Barnes is just so detail oriented. It might drive you crazy if, again, you don't learn to love it. But of course, Jahmai Mashack, one of those returning players with an elite level of talent that really will add a ton of versatility to this team. But I want to touch quickly a little bit more on the transfers that's coming in and really are filling a huge void for this team when they lost Josiah Jordan James, Santiago Vescovi, and even Dalton Connect. And of course, it starts with guys like Igor Milicic, Felix Okpara, Darling Zone Dubar, Chaz Lanier, really again getting some of the best talent out of the transfer portal. And one of the guys that really had the most attention coming out of the portal was Chaz Lanier, and for good reason. In his final year at North Florida, it was his best season, totally broke through in that final year with North Florida. When we had a chance to talk to the players a couple of weeks ago, I asked him, what led you to having kind of this breakout season, then leading you to kind of being, one of the hottest guys to get out of the portal?
I say the biggest thing for me was just confidence, having that confidence in myself, knowing I put the work in, and to just really show it under the lights, and then my teammates having that confidence in me as well.
Yeah, when I said he had a breakthrough season in his final year in North Florida, I wasn't kidding. He had 629 points, which really more than doubled his previous seasons in single season comparisons. When you look at his shooting percentages from the field, it was 51% from the field, 44 from the 3-point line. Rick Barnes called him one of the more efficient shooters and really is going to be demanding a lot of that this season. But being able to replicate that at Tennessee, of course, will require a lot of discipline as the speed of the game is a lot faster, and that's where that efficiency will really need to shine. But the message is the same for all the transfers. As Barnes says, the best way to get the most out of them and get them up to speed and get the most out of them is to keep raising the bar.
Those guys play with every day has probably been as big an experience for him as anything that he's gone through, and he would tell you that. But we need him to, he's going to have to continue to do what he does, but do it at a much quicker pace.
Yeah, so if Chaz Lanier can keep that up, even slightly get close to those figures he had in his senior year at North Florida, he will definitely fill some shoes for this team. Another player, as we mentioned, having versatility on this team and has continued to raise the bar themselves has been Jahmai Mashack. Of course, all of us really know him as that lockdown defender, multiple times throughout the season. A year ago, he led or co-led the team in a number of defensive stats, from blocks or steals, rebounding, you name it. He was at the top of the list, especially more impressively because he came off the bench a number of the times and was still able to put up figures like that. So he definitely has an impact on the game and completely changes the way the opponents, play their game on offense when you have a guy like there in the game. But sometimes where we found that he struggled a year ago was offensively, either not having confidence to take a shot, not taking a clean shot, not reading the offenses as well as he should to help set up a nice shot for the team. But while he's worked on that all 4 years, really, I think, and if you can infer from what the coaches are saying, he's made the most improvement this off season. So much so that he really has gained the trust of his head coach and Rick Barnes that if there's an open shot and Jahmai Mashack has the ball, Mashack better take it.
When he takes the shots that we know that he practices and gets set, we're really surprised if he misses them. As long as he does what he practices, and he's worked hard at it, and we need him to do that. And if he's open, he's worked hard enough to be a guy that we expect to shoot open shots when he gets them. And he's done a good job. He really has. I think probably pretty much through the preseason, he's probably been our best consistent three-point shooter overall.
Yeah, so it's certainly high praise from Rick Barnes. Also to see that potential and growth in Jahmai Mashack so early into preseason as well. I'm really keeping an eye on Jahmai Mashack and what he'll be able to do through the next couple of weeks in preseason and what we might see in that exhibition game against Indiana. But where Rick Barnes will always continue to raise the bar regardless of how good the team is, how close to perfect that they believe that they're playing, is of course on defense. And why I believe this team could probably have one of Rick Barnes' better defenses is not only because of Jahmai Mashack and what we've seen from him and how he continues to elevate that side of the ball, but also because you have a transfer in Felix Okpara who comes from OSU. He was one of their better defenders in program history, led the college basketball Division I level in a number of stats, specifically when it comes to blocks. He talked to media a couple weeks ago and he says, if I wanted to block every shot, I could. Okay, well, I thought that was hyperbolic. I thought he was exaggerating and just, really keened in on, his ability to play that type of defense because he is incredibly tall. Honestly, I'll double check the stats here in a second. I do think he's like 6'5" taller, so he is a really tall defender. But when we had a chance to talk to the players in a more one-on-one setting, I even asked my Mashack about that statement Felix Akpara made, and I feel like I should have taken him more seriously.
Mm.
What is it like having someone with that mentality on the team?
He's not lying at all. If he wanted to block every shot, I really feel like he could. Like that dude, his reads on the court is special. His timing is really, really different than other bigs. It's kind of hard to get a feel on when he's going to jump up and try and block a shot. And right when you feel like you got it high enough, it feels like he has an extra levitation gear to get up there and block your shot. So I feel very comfortable if somebody does happen to get past me, which I don't think a lot of people will. But if you happen to get past me, you have somebody that's tough to score on in Felix. So.
Well, I'm glad I double checked Felix Akpara's height because I took several inches off of him that I don't think he would appreciate. He's actually 6'11", so when he says he could block nearly every shot, that might be a good indicator of why. He's averaging more than 2 blocks a game. He was one of 2 Division I players that led the NCAA in blocks, reaching at least 60 blocks for a season total. He's tied for 8th most at OSU in single season blocks, leading from a year ago. So definitely there's a good reason why he might be one of those guys that could block every shot. 6'11" is actually kind of crazy. Yeah, so we'll continue to hear from the team in the coming weeks, what the team is looking like, and especially once exhibition play gets here, we really truly will have a really good idea of what this team looks like. As you know, they're taking on Indiana, and that's always a good matchup. As far as the Lady Vols and Kim Caldwell's Lady Volunteers, we will hear from them the following week as they are getting ready for their SEC Media Days as well. I'll have their press conferences on the YouTube homepage under the bonus tab as well. I'll try and get a couple of articles up on Full Disclosure Pro as well. So again, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of this content coming up as the basketball season is really just upon us. And I'm really looking forward to an exciting season for both of these teams. But as always, thank you for watching. We'll be back Friday with the voice of Alabama football and Chris Stewart to talk about this upcoming matchup, the first time in Neyland Stadium since that 2022 victory over Alabama.